All right, everybody, this is Mr. Miles. I'm going to give you a quick, mini lesson over the topic for today, which is this reading is something that sadly we don't get in this packet, which is an explanation of Valhalla, because we talk about Valhalla and we kind of have the overview of it, but we know more about Valhalla than we typically talk about. And I want us to know a little bit more about what the Norse could expect when you died. Because we spent a whole unit on it with Greek mythology. Like, what if you or I died in Greek mythology? What could we expect when we went to Hades and the underworld? Tartarus, Elysium, Field of Asphodel. What could we expect? Here, we don't have as much because, again, the Norse did not write down as much. But we do have an idea for some of what certain Norse individuals could expect when they died. And so I wanted to kind of dig into that just a little bit more so that you could have some idea of what, again, not all of them, but at least some Norse people could hopefully look forward to when they died. And that's Valhalla. Okay. So, first off, let's talk about the Valkyries. Okay. So, here we've got these are the Valkyries. Odin sends them to every battle. They determine men's fate and award victory. They ride ever to take the slain. There are also Valkyries whose office it is to serve in Valhalla, to bear in mind the table service and ale flagons, and they are named. I would have the Valkyries bear the horn to me; those bear the Einarjar Yale. Okay. Um, so the Valkyries are called the choosers of the slain. And basically, what they do is you often see them depicted as like they've got the winged helmets, they ride magical flying horses, and they swoop down to pick the cream of the crop from the dead from the battlefield and take them with them to the afterlife in Valhalla. Okay. Um, the part of the Valkyries that most people don't consider is the Valkyries are also the serving wenches. They're the ones who also serve the people who are dead the beer in the giant mead hall that is Valhalla. Okay, so that's part of the Valkyries to think about. Also, this word Einarjar. Einarjar is just referring to the dead, the slain who go to Valhalla. Okay, so whenever you see the word Einarjar, it's talking about the dead who are chosen by the Valkyries to go to Valhalla. Okay, and remember, only half of the dead on a battlefield go to Valhalla. The other half are taken by Freya in her cat chariot to go with her to her domain, Folkvanger, which we don't know anything about. Like, it could be awesome. It could be even better than that Valhalla, but nobody really wrote about it. So we don't know much about it, and we can't really, speculate. So then said Gangleri, which, if you don't know the prosetta, basically the way that it's formatted is you have a regular guy who is talking to a man named Har. And Har is basically like a stand in for Odin. And Gangleri is basically just a stand in for somebody who's wanting to learn about what happens for Norse mythology. So just like the average guy. Okay. So then said Gangleri, you say that all these men who have fallen in battle from the beginning of the world are now coming to Odin in Valhalla. What has he given them for food? I think a very great host must be there. So he's asking him, well, what are you going to feed all these people who come to Valhalla? There must be a bunch of people who have died in battle since the beginning of time. And then Har answered, that which you say is true. A very mighty multitude is there, but many more shall be, notwithstanding which it will seem all too small when the time of the wolf shall come. But never is so vast a multitude in Valhalla that the flesh of that boar shall fail, which is called Sihrimnir. He is boiled every day and is whole in the evening. Srimhir Sehrimnir, oh gosh, I can't say his name. Sehrimnir Sodden, the best of the hams. And yet, how few know with what food champions are fed. And so here he basically answers him by saying, well, let me tell you, it's not going to look like a very big army when the time of the wolf comes, when Ragnarok comes. But don't worry, everybody's well fed because we have a big old boar, and his name is Sihrimnir. And he basically functions like Thor's goats that pull his chariot, in which we kill him every day and we feed him to everybody, and then he just grows back the next day. And so we do it all over again. It's got to be a miserable existence for this boar, though. You got to feel sorry for him just a little bit. Um, Then said Gangleri, has Odin the same fare as the champions? Har answered, that food which stands on his board he gives to the two wolves he has, called Geri and Freki, but no food does he need. Wine is both food and drink to him. So it says here, Geri and Freki are the mighty war feeds, the war mighty feeds, the glorious god of hosts, but on wine alone the weapon glorious Odin lives. Which is curious because you would expect the god of war to have like a very meat heavy diet, but no, he's drinking wine, which is again unusual for the Norse because Norse, remember, really drank ale and mead, and those were kind of the alcoholic beverages of choice they preferred. Wine, however, kind of embodied more sophisticated drinking, like knowledgeable people drank wine, okay? And the more sophisticated people drink wine. And so Odin is like, I don't eat, I only live on wine. So kind of shows you this is how sophisticated this guy is. The ravens that sit on his shoulders and say into his ear all the tidings they see or hear. They are called thus Hugin, which means thought, and Munin, which means memory. He sends them at daybreak to fly all about the world, and they come back at mealtime, and thus he's acquainted with many tidings. Therefore the men call him Raven God, as it is said, Hugin and Mugen hover each day the wide earth over. I fear for Hugin lest he comes not back, but watch more for Munin. So basically, Odin has these two ravens perched on his shoulders, and he sends them abroad every day, and they come back telling him what happens every single day. And the ravens' names literally mean thought and memory. And it's a nice little metaphor for, well, what happens one day when the memories don't come back, when I lose all my memory. Okay. Then said Gangleri, what have the champions to drink that may suffice them as abundantly as food or as water drunk here? Now, this is a stupid question because he asks them, what kind of drinks do you have here in Valhalla? Or do you just serve water? And obviously, what do you expect? Odin is going to serve the finest warriors. He's going to serve them water in Valhalla? Come on. Then said Har, now you ask strangely, as if the Allfather would invite to him kings or earls or other men of might, and then give them water to drink. Ha ha! I know by my faith that any man comes to Valhalla who would think he brought his drink of water clear dearly, that if were not better to cheer be had there, he who before had suffered wounds and burning pain unto death. I can tell a different tale of his. The she-goat, who is called Hydrun, stands up in Valhalla and bites the needles from the limb of that tree, which is very famous and is called Lyraður. And from her udders, mead runs so copiously that she fills a tub of mead every day, and that tub is so great that all the champions become quite drunk from it. So he serves mead, obviously, in Valhalla every single day. But it's not just mead. This isn't like your dollar store mead. This is the finest mead ever because it comes directly from the udders of a magical goat. Okay, so that's what they drink. That's what they eat, the magical boar, and then the magical goat. That's what they drink. Then said Gangleri, that is a wondrous proper goat for them. It must be excellent tree from which she eats. These are marvelous tidings you tell. A wondrous great house Valhalla must be, but it must be exceedingly crowded before the doors. Then Har answered, why do you not ask how many doors there are in the hall, or how great? If you hear that told, then you will say it is strange indeed if whoever will may go not out and in. But it may be said truly that there is no more crowded to find place therein than enter it. Here you may read, 500 doors and 40 more. So I deem stand in Valhalla. 800 champions go out each door when they fare to fight with the wolf. So that tells you, he's like, hey man, how crowded is Valhalla? And he's like, well, it can't be that crowded because we have 540 doors. So trust me, our fire escape policy is pretty sound, okay? Like, you're not going to find many crowded doorways, okay? We've got 540 doors, and they're so wide that 800 soldiers apiece can fit through them at once. So it's okay. If we have a fire in Valhalla, it's okay. Everyone's getting out safely, okay? And so, huge meat hall. Then said Gangleri, a very mighty multitude of men is in Valhalla, so that by my faith, Odin is a very great chieftain, since he commands such a large army. Now, what is the sport of champions when they're not reveling in the hall? So, in other words, when they're not getting drunk, what do people do for fun here? Har replied, "Every day, as soon as they're clothed, they straightway put on their armor and go out into the court and fight and slay each other. That is their sport. And then when the time draws near to meal, they ride home to Valhalla, sit down to drink, even as it's said here. All the Einarjar in Odin's court deal out blows every day. They slain, they choose and ride from the strife and sit later in love together." So there you go. So you don't just get drunk. No, you get drunk in the evening. In the morning, you wake up, put on your armor, and then you go and you fight and you kill everybody, because obviously you can kill somebody and you pop right back up because you're already dead. So you can kill each other as many times as you want to have fun, and then say, all right, best 2 out of 3, let me kill you again, I bet I can get you, right? So that's essentially what happens when the Einarjar go about their day. And so they kill each other, they have fun in the courtyard, and then they come back to the mead hall in the evening and they get drunk, they get absolutely hammered, and have a great time playing, chess and other riddle games and things like that Vikings would do in the mead halls themselves to entertain themselves. So that's essentially what Valhalla, the picture of Valhalla, looks like for a Viking.